Last weekend, Donald Trump bombed Iran's nuclear facilities. I'm going to be explaining what happened and why I'm preparing for World War III. As tensions continue to rise in the Middle East, Donald Trump took the unprecedented action of a preemptive strike on Iran's nuclear facilities in what was called Operation Midnight Hammer.
A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the three key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime.
The U.S. attacked nuclear sites at three locations: Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. Here's a diagram of the structure at Fordow. The attack used multiple stealth B-2 bombers. What made the attack difficult is these were underground bunkers. The planes dropped massive bunker buster bombs. These are called GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrators. There was immediately a lot of reporting from different perspectives. Some were supportive of Donald Trump's actions, and some were critical. A lot of people, especially online, were claiming Donald Trump was foolish and the bombings could escalate to World War III. Here's the commentary from the news channel Breaking Points.
This is one of the most extraordinary and aggressive, independent, unilateral actions launched by a president of the United States ever. And I'm struck by that. I'm struck by, in my opinion, just such a foolhardy decision given the consequences that are unfortunately very likely to come.
Suddenly, even though our Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, at the end of March, told us the Iranians are not close to a nuclear weapon, they are not pursuing a nuclear weapon. The IAEA says the same thing. We have no evidence that the Iranians are pursuing a nuclear weapon. But suddenly, Trump and Fox News, and CNN to a great extent as well, suddenly it's Iran is on the brink of a nuclear weapon. This is taken as effectively a fact. Very WMD, Iraq war. The vibes are, off the charts.
I want to address a few things. They bring up statements by Tulsi Gabbard claiming that Trump is acting against the information from his own intelligence agency. Let me be clear. This is a proven hoax. This idea came from an interview question given to Donald Trump.
Always said that you don't believe Iran should be able to have a nuclear weapon, but how close do you personally think that they were to getting one? Because Tulsi Gabbard testified in March that the intelligence community said Iran wasn't building a nuclear weapon.
I don't care what she said. I think they were very close to having it.
What this reporter is saying is a lie. She is taking half a sentence said by Tulsi Gabbard completely out of context to say that Iran was not close to having nuclear weapons. That is not what Tulsi Gabbard said. That quote was from a 2-minute statement of Tulsi Gabbard talking about how dangerous Iran was. Tulsi Gabbard immediately posted on social media explaining that this was a hoax. Here is a photo of Tulsi Gabbard in the Situation Room advising Trump on Iran. So the idea that Donald Trump was ignoring information from his own staff is a complete hoax. This is extremely dishonest, and this reporter should be removed from the White House press pool. For Breaking Points, to use this hoax as the basis to claim that Trump doesn't know what he is doing is extremely misleading. It seems like they are using fake propaganda to push their political opinion rather than report the news. Why does Breaking Points refuse to explain that the Tulsi Gabbard situation was a hoax? The second thing that really disturbs me is when they state absolutely that Donald Trump has zero intelligence that Iran has nuclear capabilities.
There is not one scrap of United States intelligence that backs up the claim that Iran was actively trying to make a nuclear weapon. Now, what you're going to hear a lot about is something called highly enriched uranium. What they are going to claim is that having the capacity, using that capacity of where they are at 60%, and then the timeline between 60 and 90%, and then the timeline from there for assembly was the reason for the strike. Now, remember, this gets to the Tulsi Gabbard point.
First, how could they possibly know that? But even more significant, we have all seen the intelligence. I've already shown you the diagram of the underground bunker of their nuclear facility. You are telling me that Iran has built an underground bunker to create nuclear weapons, and you're trying to convince me that they're not doing anything with it. What do you think they're using it for? Weekend yoga retreats? Of course they are building nuclear weapons. Let us not forget that Barack Obama released $150 billion of Iran's frozen assets, and Joe Biden unfroze $16 billion on the condition that they would stop advancing their nuclear program. Why would they give Iran so much money unless they had significant nuclear capability? So for breaking points to argue so strongly that there is no threat is absurd. Obviously the threat is real, or we would not have given them all that money.
There is not one scrap of United States intelligence that backs up the claim that Iran was actively trying to make a nuclear weapon.
When you have people in the media making absurd statements and basing their arguments on proven hoaxes, I'm more likely to believe Donald Trump, because it sounds to me like the media is fake news. A lot of people online are criticizing Trump, claiming they want an America First agenda. I find this very frustrating. I understand the concept that people want Trump to prioritize America's interests, but we cannot ignore the rest of the world. Are we supposed to just not have any foreign policy? I think people need to grow up. There are people in other countries that want to kill us, and if we ignore that, it will be at our peril. Iran regularly chants "Death to America." This is the Iranian parliament shouting, "Death to America." They want to wipe us out. They want to bomb our cities. Do you understand this? We cannot allow them to get a nuclear bomb. Thanks to Trump, now they won't. I think that is smart foreign policy. The second point that people are making online is that Donald Trump is somehow working for the state of Israel. I think this is silly. Israel is our biggest ally in the Middle East, so of course we are working with them. But to claim that Israel is controlling Donald Trump is ridiculous. I do not believe that anyone controls Donald Trump. In fact, I think it's the other way around. I think Donald Trump is using Israel to achieve the goals of the United States. If you understand the history of the region, Israel is actually a very small part of what is going on. The Middle East is split between Shia and Sunni Muslim groups. When the Prophet Muhammad died in the 7th century, the Muslim religion split into two groups. Sunnis followed the elected caliphs, which were religious and political leaders. Shias believed they should instead follow Muhammad's descendants based on lineage. The two groups have been warring ever since. Iran is part of what is known as the Shia Crescent. This includes Iran, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and Yemen. These countries are mostly Shia. Alternatively, countries like Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Egypt are mostly Sunni. But in reality, most countries in the Middle East are a mix between Shia and Sunni, which creates the conflict. We saw this play out when the US liberated Iraq, and control of the country turned into a violent struggle between Shia and Sunni forces. My point is this: Israel is not the country that benefits the most from the US bombing Iran. Saudi Arabia is really who benefits. Because if Iran ever got a nuclear weapon, they would wipe Saudi Arabia off the map because they are Sunni. What you need to realize is that Donald Trump is working with all the countries in the region, not just Israel, to stabilize the Middle East. But I think the bombings in Iran are not even about the Middle East. I think Donald Trump is playing 4D chess. I think the bombings are really about China and Russia. China and Russia are led by Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin. Both of them are essentially dictators. The leader of Iran is Sayyid Ali Khamenei, who is also essentially a dictator. These three major countries are led by dictators, and dictators like to stick together. What they are doing is criminal. They control their countries by force, and if anyone speaks out against them, they are jailed or killed. Let us take Russia. When Obama was president, Vladimir Putin saw a weak leader and invaded Crimea. When Joe Biden was president, Vladimir Putin saw another weak leader and invaded more of Ukraine. Now that Donald Trump is president again, he has been trying to convince Putin to end the conflict in Ukraine. By Donald Trump bombing Iran, he is crippling one of Putin's few key allies. This is going to put added pressure onto Putin to agree to a peace deal in Ukraine. Let us look at China. By some estimates, Iran sells 90% of its oil to China.
Really, it's Chinese money that is fueling Iran, that is fueling terrorism.
90% of the Iranian oil goes to China.
China is not supposed to buy so much oil from Iran because of international sanctions. But China desperately needs oil. So what China has been doing is they will have Iran sell oil to Malaysia, who will then sell the oil to China. Sneaky, right? So we don't know exactly how much oil China is getting from Iran, but most estimates agree that it makes up a large portion of China's oil. When Trump became president again, he's been trying to get China to agree to fair tariffs. By Donald Trump bombing Iran, he is crippling one of China's few key allies. This is going to put added pressure on Xi Jinping to accept Trump's trade deal. In my opinion, these missile strikes on Iran have less to do with Israel and more to do with Donald Trump's greater foreign policy objectives with Russia and China. Since the U.S. missile strikes, Iran retaliated by launching 6 missiles at U.S. military bases in Qatar. All 6 missiles were intercepted and destroyed. No Americans or Qataris were killed or wounded. Then on Monday, Donald Trump posted on Truth Social announcing that a ceasefire had been reached between Israel and Iran, ending the 12-day war. The following day, both Israel and Iran violated the ceasefire. It is unsure how this conflict will play out. I fully support Donald Trump, and I think he made the correct decision. Someone, at some point, was going to have to step in and stop Iran from obtaining a nuclear bomb. I think Donald Trump was the right person to do it. However, in my opinion, I think at this point it is inevitable that we are headed towards World War III. Let's look at the current world powers. On one side, you have the allied forces of the United States, Great Britain, Israel, and most of the free democracies around the world. On the other side, you have an axis of evil with Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea, all ran by dictators. And for some reason, the Axis forces want to wipe out all the Jews. Does this sound familiar to anyone? We have seen this all happen before during World War II. Back then, we had the countries of Germany, Italy, and Japan, all led by dictators that started invading other countries. Let me explain why World War III is inevitable, in my opinion. Dictators can only stay in power by force. That means that they must pay their supporters enough money to keep them loyal. That means when times get tough, they must invade other countries so that they can steal the other country's money so that they can pay the people who are keeping them in power. They have no choice but to invade. We already see this with Russia invading Ukraine. We also see this with China's takeover of Hong Kong, China's threats of invading Taiwan, and China trying to expand territory in the South China Sea. Donald Trump is telling them, no, you have to stop. But I do not believe for a second they are going to stop. Violent dictators will keep going until you remove them from power by military force, just like we had to do during World War II. People have been calling Donald Trump's bombing of Iran a preemptive strike. I think that's the wrong description. The bombing of Iran was a response to decades of the US negotiating nicely with Iran. Iran was the one constantly escalating to higher levels of retaliation, including killing hundreds of US soldiers in conflicts around the Middle East. The bombings were Trump's attempt to stop the broader escalation towards World War III. I don't think it's going to work, not because of Trump, but because these dictators will continue escalating conflicts in order to survive. Now, we do not know if World War III is going to start sometime next week or sometime in the future. But in my opinion, I do think it is coming, and I think people who are ignoring this are being naive. I don't know if any of you remember this. During the Republican National Convention, one of the speakers was William Peckrell. He is a World War II veteran who was there on D-Day when the U.S. stormed the beaches of Normandy. He witnessed the horror of the Nazi death camps. Listen to what he said.
And President Trump, back in Commander-in-Chief, I would go back to re-enlist today, and I would storm whatever beach my country needs me to.
This brave man said with Donald Trump as president, he wants to go back and re-enlist. I think there's a lot we can learn from this generation. Here's another World War II veteran. He fought off intruders who were trying to steal his American flag.
At age 92, World War II veteran Howard Banks is legally blind, but his memory is sharp.
I was a gunner.
On July 11th, a day before his birthday, the Marine heard someone outside pulling his American flag down.
One step down.
So he went outside to investigate.
I walked out hanging on the railing and stepped down. That must have startled them.
Banks tells me the first time this happened, which was about a year ago, someone shredded his American flag and ripped his Marine flag. He was determined not to let that happen again.
They could see me, I couldn't see them. And I turned and looked in the other direction, and about then, wham, they knocked me down.
Whoever did it took off. Neighbors rushed in to help Howard up.
Oh, my knee is a little twisted.
Bumps and bruises.
And on this forearm, it's kind of sore yet, and it's kind of rough.
Can't stop him from his life's mission.
I think we all had that same feeling that that flag was our identity. We are Americans.
To honor veterans who sacrifice and serve.
The fact that I'm getting older and less I can do, at least I can still do that.
Yona Gavino, CBS 11 News.
This former Marine is blind. He can barely walk, and he still goes outside to defend his flag. It doesn't matter that he's blind, he still salutes the flag. I want someone to explain to me what kind of sick person is trying to tear down this man's flag. I wish more people would follow this man's example and stand up for America just like Donald Trump. A lot of people question Donald Trump's motives, but I don't think a lot of them realize how he feels about World War II veterans. In 1995, he saved the New York City Veterans Day Parade, marking the 50th anniversary of the end of World War II. The parade organizers had in their bank account a total of $1.21. They contacted 200 corporations for donations, including all the major military contractors, and they received nothing. You know who did give money? Donald J. Trump. He personally donated $200,000 and raised another $300,000 from his friends. The parade ended up being the largest military parade ever held in New York, with 500,000 people attending. Donald Trump saved the parade. This is what he said. "This donation is the single most important thing I've ever done. This is more important than all my buildings and casinos. This is my way of saying thank you to all the men and women in the armed services who have made it possible for me to become a success. Without them, freedom and liberty would be gone." I do not think that anyone should be questioning Donald Trump's motives or how he thinks about the military. Let me tell you about something else. In 2017, there was a man named Eliyahu Pietruszka from Poland. He was 102 years old, and he thought he lost all his family members in World War II. The last time he saw his brother and his parents alive was in a concentration camp. It turns out that his brother survived. 70 years later, he found out that his brother actually survived and had a son. Here he is meeting with his nephew for the first time, his only remaining living family.
Я счастливый, что я могу вас видеть, с вами разговаривать. Это для меня большое дело.
Спасибо
Я уже
огромное.
2 ночи не сплю, потому что я жду вас.
What the United States did in World War II mattered. It mattered that the US stood up for truth and justice and came in to fight the Nazis. No matter what the future brings, I hope the US can live up to the example given to us by previous generations. Sometimes the world needs us to be a beacon of hope against tyranny. America is special, and it is something worth fighting for. I pray that Donald Trump continues what he has been doing to show US strength around the globe. In the meantime, I will be preparing for World War III. Now I want to hear from you. Do you support Trump in bombing Iran, or do you think it was a mistake? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you like this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future videos. Quick update on the channel. YouTube has been cracking down on my channel again. On my video last week, YouTube placed a restriction so you get a warning message when you click on the video. Why is YouTube trying to suppress this video? This is so frustrating because it contains important footage that people are not hearing about. If you can do me a favor, if you can click on the like button down below, that helps a lot to promote these videos. And share this video with a friend. That's the only way I'm getting this information out there. If you find my videos helpful, consider signing up for a membership on my website, wolvesandfinance.com. For $6 a month, your support helps me to keep making these videos. Thank you to everyone who has signed up. Despite all these struggles, I'm going to keep making videos. It doesn't matter if YouTube shadow bans me. It doesn't matter if they put warning labels on my videos. I believe in telling the truth. And if we share it, the truth will get out there. I'm Zach from Wolves and Finance. Thank you for watching.